this button, and then also this button, I think. Nope, not that one. Made a bad choice. That's the right choice. I think.
Check
I
the
think it's my laptop.
do something
No.
that makes more noise in the game.
There we go.
There you go.
It's picking up something.
Okay. Lorraine, do you want to do me a favor and hand me that other mouse?
Boink.
Alright.
Oh, there's gonna be a long delay. I'm gonna hate it.
I mean, just turn the audio
Yeah,
off
turn
on
the audio
here,
off.
and then on the stream, and then you can hear us talk, and you don't really need to hear the pew 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 of whatever.
Yeah, I'm gonna try not to talk about what I'm doing.
Yeah, I would keep your Discord audio on. Keep the stream audio
Yeah.
off.
Yeah, I guess that makes. There's gonna be a weird audio delay
Yes.
just in between what I'm seeing and what people are saying.
I mean, like I said, I'm not gonna try to like narrate or comment on this. I'm just. We didn't do a stream last week, so I wanted to do a stream this week. And we were
I
gonna
want to hear your
podcast.
thoughts on the Seraph Tower event while you try and do it.
Who?
I'm not.
I'm sorry. What?
No,
All right, one second. I'm gonna keep
Wow, you
fiddling with
made that
knobs over here, but
Really quiet.
yeah, I know. I'm fixing it. Give me.
Fix it. Fix it.
There's like
fix it,
7
fix it,
different
fix
ways
it,
you need
fix
to
it,
adjust the
fix it,
volume
fix
to make it
fix
work right. But all right, I'm Ryan's playing Destiny.
Bang bang.
That's her. I'm Dustin.
Kyle's here too.
And we're gonna record a thing
I'm
that'll.
watching Destiny.
Yeah, we're gonna record a thing
Hey,
that'll be saved
Colette!
later, also in audio form.
Will you
As our
stop?
cat destroys everything. I try to change the settings on stuff, so.
I knew how to extract her from behind the TV. Boy, do you bet I would have by now. Now she's on the
Put
PS.
some aluminum foil back there.
But she likes foil.
All right, Lorraine, you keep
Something
playing.
that it hates
I'm gonna
then.
keep.
She's really stupid.
Well, most cats are.
Okay, that's that.
BB likes corn. Dumb. Ooh, I can hear a lot of static feedback now. Woo! I don't know. Maybe that one. Seems to have left. Also, hi Brian. I can't release.
We're doing okay. Like I said, we're
You're loud.
streaming and about to record a thing. Oh, sorry. I guess I didn't figure that. Well, she's literally underneath that chair.
The chair weighs nothing.
Give up. Cat wins.
Welcome me. Oh, because I joined it. Inverted.
Anyway.
I should have put the
Nice,
stuff on it.
nice tilt cues.
This is summon. Oh, that was a.
It's got that guy's weird, weird display of circles and dots that you see when he's trying to summon his fire turrets.
You know it.
Flame turrets, excuse me. And instead of collecting some for Cade, we got him killed.
Shh.
Okay. Yeah, that's not too bad. I'm just, like I said, I'm still trying to balance the stream audio with audio I'm going to actually save, which is separate.
Got both of our audio recorders working in tandem right now. Exciting. Things interesting. Let's all go south. This was my idea.
Okay. Yeah, now we'll just wait to see if Phil and or Wade show up.
So it's online.
Yeah, it says they're both online.
Then we'll
Could be like me and
turn the recording on part.
always
on.
unable to get their audio to work right.
Oh gosh.
Go get him, Ryan.
Thanks, Warlock.
No, you're dead.
And turn her up.
Oh. I mean, I'm.
Pretty sure that's her.
I sound louder in my ears. Unfortunate. Ba-dum.
Phil up?
Hello. You did it. We found a person. Right.
How's it going?
Wow. Mood.
I want to think about it.
There you go.
Is Wade nearby?
This is upstairs.
Is Wade coming is the other.
I don't know. Let me holler.
Yeah, I'll find out. If he's not, we'll get started in a second. If he is, we'll wait for him.
By my ankle.
This heat is in.
Hey, failsafe.
Hold on a second.
You're all cozy in your data core. Any advice on an energy shield?
I believe the nearby Vex constructs maintain that barrier.
Well, I could have. Okay, we'll shoot them.
Okay, Wade is coming.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, in that case, holding pattern for the recording. And yeah, Lorraine's already playing Destiny, so
It's true.
like she said, I'm not planning to comment too much on the gameplay. We'll just let it speak for itself.
good.
Oh, your teammates are dead.
How did that happen?
Once we get started, but I haven't started
It's a miniature
recording the
army,
audio,
isn't there?
other audio separately yet, so we're just kind of
Right.
kicking it.
Shoot some laser beam. And then stop shooting those
Everybody's
laser beams.
week going. How was yesterday?
It was
Not
alright.
too bad. We did a decent
Same as
amount of
tomorrow.
Iron Banner, and it went well.
Same as tomorrow.
But yes, basically the same as.
Banner going well. Is this?
I get to be the surrogate audience because I have not read the TWAB.
Okay. Get the gist of it.
Yeah.
Almost.
Why didn't you close the door? She was not in the room.
No, I didn't even notice. No. Darn cat.
Now she's back, and she's gonna eat all the cords. She's dumb as hell.
All the
I love her,
words.
but she's stupid.
It's cattail. Cats are here.
Oh, that's nice. Look like a Vex.
I love all of our inventions.
Seeing them
Just
cycle
always
is
show up.
beautiful.
Blue. Barrier, barrier. I love
Carrier barrier.
I think she's clawing at the glass. That is under on the entertainment center.
Oh, there she is. There you
Good, now
sitting
she's in the
down
good.
her special spot.
Good girl.
Hello.
That's Wade.
It is Wade.
Right.
I'm echoing in Kyle's thing.
What do you want me to do about it?
Do you have headphones? Was that what's happening?
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, like,
Your output might be coming through your computer and your headphones.
Oh, wouldn't that be great?
They want their drill back.
Dead clown, a gun. A bottomless pit. Give the fucker away.
We're good inventors.
Flam burpee.
Forgot about Flamer.
Alright, how about now?
Fueled treadmill.
I think it's
Now
better.
we're good.
Yeah, it sounds fine
sounds
now.
better.
Brian, confirm, but I don't hear it anymore.
I don't hear an echo anymore.
Pants glue.
Too bad.
It's two.
Echo is the highest form of communication.
So say the whales.
Still say the
And the
bats.
bats.
Bats are what got us into this
Maybe.
mess.
Okay, alright.
Tushy explosion.
I think we're basically good. Guys all seem fine, like audio-wise, everything sounds okay enough.
You seem fine too.
Oh, thanks.
Body display.
Jeez.
Stop violence if it's clowns.
Cat is in like his passive mode she's been recently, which
It's
is pretty
true.
good. All right, I'm gonna say we're
She
okay.
chillin'. She chillin'.
What primer is that? I can't figure it out.
That is a pluperfect.
Yeah.
It's a fun deep cut. A gun I would not have guessed in the.
I have two that I really like. One is on my hunter present.
Not one you see much of anymore.
Or ever. Like people didn't even really use it when it came
I
out.
fucking
People.
love
Yeah,
pluperfect.
right.
I was using it.
I've got a few good ones.
Used
I
it for a
have
little
one
bit.
left somewhere.
I like it.
I have one with like 150 cruisers.
Neat.
I'm gonna Kamehameha the fuck out of this swole thing.
Yeah, I think we're good. Phil, are you using a headset? Okay, my only suggestion for you would be to like, however snuggled up you are to your microphone, maybe snuggle up
Cozy
a little
up.
harder.
10% more.
I'm using the PS4 headset. The microphone is.
Oh, okay. Then I guess just really try to enunciate, because breaking up a tiny bit. Microphone are.
A lot of people.
I wonder if that's a Discord thing.
I think it is.
It's the same headset and the same receiver that I
Right.
use. for
It's
Discord
definitely
every
a Discord thing.
If you're in Discord and you go into user settings and voice and video, there's a
It's not getting
People
up
that are
fast.
kind of in and out.
We're
That's what I
not
was
in and
looking
out.
for.
You can turn up the volume on other people by right-clicking them and
Doesn't really help.
updating their user
This
volume.
better or worse?
That is a little better, I would say.
Okay. I'm just making sure I
Yeah.
pushed the slider in the correct direction.
Uh-huh. Kyle, who's breaking up for you? I can try to change the same setting on our end if it's us.
So right now it's fine.
Okay.
Pushing the slider left is the appropriate
What
thing.
I did.
Got
Yeah, that's
'em.
definitely better.
Okay, good.
Hooray! Sounded bad.
Yay!
All right. Well, you guys are ready. I'll push the other button.
Sure.
Little button.
Pelosi is her new
Oh.
plan includes $10,000 of student loan forgiveness.
Might as well include $1 million for everyone under the age of 30. It's not going to happen.
Well, you're not wrong.
Uh,
$1 million, you say?
Under 30.
Oh no!
Ha! Me! For now.
for now.
Guys, I pay off my car in exactly 2 days.
Huh,
Yay!
funny.
Congrats.
I checked it today and I was like, oh, that's the last payment.
Nice.
You're buying a new car.
Shut up.
That's how consumerism works, right?
Uh-huh.
Right.
Yeah, you gotta get in there.
I looked at our clan name again.
So good.
Anyway,
Okay. Yeah, I'll do the thing. So yeah.
we're good to go. Press that button.
Uh-huh. I'm pulling up the website again for a second, just so I can get the text back in front of me.
Hold on.
All right.
Read along at home.
Can we just read from the comment section?
Just go on Reddit and
Like
just
people say.
read people's rage. All right. Doing it. All right. I pushed a different button.
Incredible. There's so many
I'm
buttons
gonna
to press.
quit this like I'm gonna quit Destiny.
Welcome to the
Dang.
Destiny 2 Bungie shitstorm.
Hello, Internet. My name is Dustin Morbido. This is the Cubicle Games podcast. We are recording this while doing a different thing. Lorraine is live streaming Destiny 2.
It's true.
She's just gonna kind of be doing it. She's just kind of doing like
Doing strikes,
the
baby.
video game equivalent of manual labor.
Yep. Well, no, that would be actually doing the public events right
Public
now.
event.
Well,
Damn.
sure.
Difficult to.
I'm
Thing
doing-
that no one's doing.
I'm doing paperwork right now, Dustin.
Wait,
I'm
wait,
not
wait,
doing
what-
manual labor.
What's IO at today?
I don't have the quest in this
It's
character.
either 2 or 3%.
Nice. Nice.
No, Earth is over 50%.
Okay.
So,
Wow, they doubled since yesterday.
They are
Yep.
the people who are doing it are tackling it systematically for
That's
whatever
fine.
reason.
I hope so.
I don't
Or
care.
I hope not. I don't know.
Or right, or it's
it would,
it's just
it
an
would be
accident.
great if EDZ just got to 100% and the other two just
Never went out.
They fucking are.
Not doing that garbage.
Anyway, joining us on the internet, Wade McGrath is here.
Sure.
Technically speaking.
Kyle McGrath is here.
Positively.
Wow.
And Philip McGrath is here.
I debate the truth of that.
You're right. I'm not very positive.
As here as anyone is in the year of our Lord
There you go.
2020, where human touch has been verboten.
Oh, God. Not if we all go to Texas.
Human what? We don't have to go that far. We can just go to Wisconsin.
Right, exactly. I'm.
What's a
I
human?
had such a weird. So I went to get groceries the other day.
High as a freaking kite.
Relatively early in the morning, not like right when they opened, like I had been going, but maybe like 2 hours later than that.
Yeah.
And you know, everybody was being good citizens for the most part, wearing masks and keeping their distance or whatever. And then I had one little like kind of stumble. Like we kind of clipped each other. He was like, "Oh, I'm sorry," and I was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, my bad." But like, the sensation of being
Romantic
physically touched by a by a stranger, by another human.
You get his number.
Right, exactly. I was like I swear for like just a second,
We live
like
together now.
the whole world slowed down. It was just like turn around. It felt like I felt a feel in the store from like just barely grazing another person.
Dustin,
It was
that's
very
like
strange.
the same sensation I had when we went to my parents' house for my sister's birthday last Saturday.
Uh-huh.
Like, I didn't, like, we weren't really near anyone. We had a very wide circle in front of their house, but just being around so many other people felt wrong.
They're coming for us any minute now.
Yep.
So yeah, the world's weird now. That's all.
We're gonna be hauled off to Gretchen Whitmer's gulag.
I hear they're nice.
We'll call her Gulag Whitmer.
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 Oh man. But anyway, so yeah, the world's still a mess. And
To everyone listening, I am joking. I support Gretchen Whitmer, and
Oh, yeah.
you fucking should too.
Oh, no, yeah. Send me to the gulags. I want to go. I won't go outside ever again.
Don't worry, no one's gonna listen to this.
No.
That's true.
People watch our content?
But anyway, yeah, it's stay inside. Like probably stay inside regardless whenever you can, but especially so if you're bound to by the governing body that encompasses
that's
where
the
you
thing.
live.
If I go to Walmart, like Ryan just said, it's about a third of the people aren't wearing masks. But
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's
other
Walmart.
places are more stringent about just saying you can't even get in.
Yeah, I want to say there was like maybe 5% or less non-compliance in the mire when I was just in that particular trip. Like I want to say 2 people out of like, I don't know, 50 maybe that I saw in the store were
I'm a little surprised
Uncovered.
that Meyer is that much higher on the class meter than Walmart there.
Really?
Sure, it's largely based on where you live.
Yeah,
Like,
sure.
and time of day, like
Yeah,
you
you
know,
have
if you
more
go
things. Yeah.
if you go early-ish, like I would assume if you go before noon, you're probably gonna find people who are trying to make less contact with people in general, and like if you're bothering to try to do that, you're probably a little more likely to bother to try to take other forms of positive you know, damage
Right.
control and shit. But if you go at like right when they close or even right after work or whatever, just like in times where more people on average will just be there, you'll get more goons.
I live for the goons. I will die
There
from
are a lot
the
of
goons.
those.
Oh god, this
Goons gotta get groceries too.
goons gotta eat,
True,
allegedly.
yeah. Knuckles won't drag themselves without food.
Yeah.
Saying?
These
They
are-
will for a little while.
I did see one guy who was like, I was both upset with him but happy that he split the difference because he was actively wearing a MAGA hat, but he also had a mask on. So
They do exist.
I was like, all right,
Yeah.
I'll take it, I guess.
Better than wearing neither, I suppose.
yeah.
Agreed.
Not by a lot.
But yeah, so that's the state of things. Is like keeping people alive is a radical progressive act, I guess, according to
Everyone.
people who are stupid.
Mhm.
And people are stupid.
Yes.
Gotta get it over with.
As a people, I can contest to that, but I'm stupid in like a charming way.
Yeah, exactly. If you want to make your, if you want to let people know you're stupid, but not that stupid, wear your hat and your mask. Just like, I'm this
Such a
dumb.
contradiction.
You must be this dumb to be in this store.
Man, they would kick that guy out of the rally if he did that.
Oh god.
Oh,
it's
I
just-
missed.
It's really
that.
something.
Bad.
Right, exactly. That's what I wish. Like, yeah, just like, look. Am I gonna be stoked that you're wearing a Confederate flag over your face to keep the germs in? Not really, but more so than the alternative, I guess. Like, if I have to choose. You know. Anyway,
Destiny.
Destiny's pretty good. Pretty good. Although that said, I actually probably have the most positive opinions, I'm guessing, of the stuff they announced today.
I don't
but-
know anything about it, so I have no opinions presently.
I think that they're generally favorable to all of us, but because we have a background in game
Data
design and balancing things and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Gonna say,
Some of
I'll-
it's
I'll
good
s-
and some of it's bad.
I'll say this
Yeah,
much
I'm
as a
not saying it's
primer.
perfect.
The thread that Bungie posted for the TWAB is at 3,000 comments and a solid 0 upvotes.
Ooh.
How does that compare to like your average?
Average
Usually
TWABs,
they're
like,
upvoted.
right, the
One-
mediocre ones are like 100 to 300, and the good ones are like in the thousands. But this is like an actively everyone hates it kind of thing.
Man,
Every-
Fair,
Everyone
that
just
just
like
means
that.
more people bothered to downvote it and then upvote it.
That is true.
And the other thing there, which I think is, I do think is a mistake on their part that maybe they couldn't get around, just because I would guess that structurally the shit is in the update, then there's no reasonable way to like roll it back or roll it out more slowly at this point. So like, because like here's the thing. Before we even get into like what they are planning to change over like the months and years to come, I don't think this was. If they had a choice, which I kind of suspect they didn't, just based on circumstance, it's probably not the best time to get back into a thing that like an at least somewhat considerable vocal number of people had a negative reaction to. Stuff that's bad about the game. About it. Timing on elaborating on this and starting to roll it out to people is not good for that reason. So like people are going to be even more mad about it right now than they would otherwise, just because people are already riled up.
This season kind of sucks, and this public event thing kind of sucks.
Right, and the Guardian Games was underwhelming, and nothing that's happened in the last like 2 months, it's been like somewhere on the scale of negative.
And they haven't really projected any sort of strong future for Destiny right now.
Right, exactly. So that's why, in an ideal world, I'd think like either in the context of a new season trailer that will hopefully theoretically show something fun to do, or even better yet, like in the context of the fall update, like here's what's going to be like a bigger thing coming to the game, and also this is going to be a part of that. Like if they could have elaborated on this with the same timing that they did with like the Armor 2.0 stuff basically last year or whatever. I think
I'll be honest. From the sound of it, I would bet money that the only the thing that they have to offset this bad in the way that they had Armor 2.0 at the beginning of year 3, I suspect is just transmog, which is not enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like if they could have, I feel like the things would have been like way more. Well, I guess we'll still find out what the fallout is like, but I feel like people would have been way more receptive in general if things weren't in such a shitty space, and this could have come hand in hand with like actual new content. Like, here's a new thing you can do. Here's like some new shit that's gonna come out in the next like couple months that you'll be able to play soonish or whatever.
The compliment sandwich game design.
Yeah, right. But you know, like I said, I suspect that their timelines are weirder than ever now because everybody's working from home and shit. They're gonna launch that new season in early June, come hell or high water. Like they're gonna put out something. I don't know what it's gonna be. And they had this in the package that's gonna deploy. Then, like they had the code in there that's gonna show that like the max power level of stuff, and it certainly would have been worse than this if that had just like if they had not brought it up and then that season launched and that stuff's in there and people are like,
Yeah.
oh shit, well.
Right.
So,
It was
like-
smart to mention it.
Yeah,
Right,
so they're like right in the middle
probably
of like
getting the
there's
news
certainly
out.
better ways that they could have rolled this out timing wise. But like ignoring it and then just having it appear in the video game unexplained would have been certainly worse than like just announcing it today in like a blog post. So
And the weird thing that they're working with right now is that there's a very real possibility that the next season, and especially the season after that, has a shit ton of spoilers, and they can't actually tell us about those seasons right now without completely breaking the build-up that they've had about the darkness.
Right. So that's like, that's all part of it. And then yeah, they're ultimately basically they announced details of the changes that they announced they were going to make a couple months ago. Where they're basically going to soft sunset weapons and armor. Well, so previously it was just weapons, right? They hadn't hinted that armor would necessarily be part of this.
Weird. Yeah, I didn't know about the armor thing.
Here's I think my favorite comment, the best comment in the entire thread is just a bulleted TLDR that we can run through.
Sure.
It was just, weapons will sunset 1 year after their respective launch season, at which point they can no longer be infused to a higher level. No weapons will hit that cap with Season 11. So next season, every weapon is still fair game. But Season 12 and after, we're going to have shit that either can't be used or, more realistically, won't be able to be top tier in Trials, Iron Banner, or current raid content.
Any light level content. Yeah.
Right, any light level content. Last Wish and Garden weapons specifically have their own unique time period before sunsetting that is unexplained right now.
Really weird and maybe pointless.
Right.
Very
like,
silly.
Raid weapons. Did they say raid armor also, or just?
They
raid
did
armor?
not.
Okay.
Last Wish I don't get, but Garden I do get, because we just got it, and Garden was also the last raid, so like it would be kind of shitty for next season for them to say, alright, this was the last raid that you did, all worthless.
Also,
it's too minor of a thing to really get into the weeds about why that is.
I could see both of them.
Right, most of the raid weapons aren't that interesting.
Both of those weapons can take all of the mods from all the raids. Scourge is after Last Wish, Sad Hat is before Garden. So you can use all of the raid mods on both of those sets of armor. That's the only reason I could see them being the two that they stick out.
They won't those light level relevant for that reason. Half the reason they're rotating armor is to get rid of.
Right, they don't want armaments. Armaments need to go away.
No.
Stuff. Powerful friends.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Any of that stuff that. That's from both angles, right? Like you do want room to be able to design more unique shit, and at the same time you can't be withholden to that stuff forever, and then 2 years from now there's 200 things that go in the the armor mod slot for whatever's contemporary or whatever, which just
right. Although
Florida gonna be like that.
In the case of Powerful Friends, we have another year to deal with it because the current season Iron Banner armor is totally accepting of that mod, so one more year of 20 extra mobility on every fucking piece of armor that you want, aside from
only this season's armor, so if you want to keep the gravy train rolling, you need to have armor entirely for this season.
Right.
This is weird.
Iron Banner.
Yeah, it's the only trial.
The whole thing is weird.
Exotics will not be sunset at all, so
Justin,
exotics
turn
will
off
always
your
last
PC
forever. And
music.
as has been pointed out, the Ascendant Shard economy, while it is going to get kind of fucked, fortunately your 3 shards spent on masterworking an exotic piece of armor is not going to be completely
good
ruined. That's it for sunsetting largely. Then they're going to have additional seasonal engrams that will drop from basically every fucking activity you can think of, and they will replace 2/3 of the current chance to get a random legendary engram, which you get for, doing any number of things.
Right.
Hopefully we'll start seeing a little less just bad Crucible armor, and we'll see more of these seasonal engrams. The seasonal engrams will just have seasonal gear, seasonal armor, seasonal weapons, and if you use some unspecified future currency, you will be able to influence the contents of those engrams, and it is kind of unclear how good or bad that system is going to be.
Yeah.
Sounds
I don't
good.
know a lot about it. It's a smart system on paper. We'll see if it's executed well.
Right. And Phil and I were discussing this earlier, and there's a distinct possibility
things
where
wrong.
you could just The way that you influence it is you can select, all right, I want to have it drop, SMGs or shotguns, and that is one discrete option. It's not a discrete option for shotguns and also a discrete option for SMGs. It's one that has both of those, and you can't choose a specific one within that. And then you just, oops, I rolled the SMG 3 times in a row. Get fucked.
Offline. Core power levels rising. Continued fluctuations will result in a critical failure. All personnel are advised to initiate safety protocols. Remember, a safe work environment is a happy work environment.
Oh, I meant to really grind out my bygones from last season, so I'm just gonna get the bygones fucking bounty 5 times and do that for 2 hours, and eventually I'm gonna get the bygones I want because I know that that's the thing that I'm getting every time.
You're not going to do that ever again.
Well,
Yeah, that's what they just said.
right,
That's
exactly.
part of the point of this collab was
I
we're never
knew
gonna
that
do that
before
again.
today.
They sort of
I
did
don't know
that
if that's
this season.
They
mean,
sort
they've
of
got-
let you roll a weapon, but you couldn't roll an infinite amount of them.
You kinda can.
Well, that's
You
more
can
a
roll, like,
question of
essentially infinite amount. It just takes longer.
Right,
Yeah,
it takes longer.
that's more a question of the economics of the thing than the than anything else, because it's not that's not like mechanically, it's just the fact that they were so generous with that fractaline currency that functionally you could roll an infinite number of anything.
And to me, the comparison should be made to Menagerie. Like, the bounties were a more boring way of doing the Menagerie weapon grinds, which the Menagerie grinds, everyone loved them, and they were completely discrete or randomized based on what you wanted to spend or what you could spend.
Or how much you played the
And-
game and unlocked.
Right. If they replace that entirely with a system that's like kind of a half-assed version of that, I'm not sure anyone's gonna walk away happy.
That's what they wanted, the half-ass version, so that you don't always get the god roll you want quickly. You have to work for it by, spinning the wheels however many times it takes.
I don't have enough information to know whether or not it's going to be a good or a bad system yet. I think
I'm
it
gonna call
could
it
be
a
a
good system
successful
based on the fact that it improves on the no system we
What's
have
that,
now.
Not that I think
But-
stream audio is being weird.
But it's not a no system. I just described the systems that it is replacing in a worse way. Like,
I told
Menagerie
you,
is
like,
still a
if you
system
want
that
the
we
seven-
have.
If you want 7th
This is-
Sarah sidearms, you can still go get 20 of them in one day, and that is not going to be the case in the future.
Right.
It's being replaced.
The current reality, not so much the
It's replacing both of them.
ability.
It's replacing both of them. They explicitly said they want to get rid
We're
of.
not doing weapon
bounties.
bounties anymore, and your legendary engrams are going to be these things instead. And I think one of those things is like almost purely a good thing, but the other will
Right, the other's a toss-up.
And we play so much that I have no doubt that over a period of time we'll get all the things we could ever want.
Yeah, and that's the kind of thing where I
100%.
think I suspect like the goal there, the fingers crossed version of that is that like your hope would be it'll affect hardcore players mostly neutrally and less hardcore people positively, which I think it'll affect like more casual players positively no matter what, just because people will get some of that gear instead of none of it, basically. Like if like I would assume people like Doug and Ashley who log in once or twice a week and play for a little bit, like they're never
Right.
even gonna see the shit from this season because why would
Right,
they?
they're not doing bunkers.
But with these changes, they'll kind of encounter some of that gear just by logging in and doing a little bit of whatever they end up doing when they get online for an hour or two.
Right.
And maybe they'll find like some random gun that they really like or whatever, or some piece of armor that they think is really cool, which they'll never be exposed to otherwise. So in that sense, it's probably good. Like that part will probably be a slight upgrade for those kinds of players no matter what. And then like you guys are saying, as far as targeted farming of a thing, it'll almost certainly be a little harder even in the best case, but like it really remains to be seen. We'll just have to find out
Yeah.
what the deal is
It
with
depends
that
on how much it costs and how much you can focus a thing.
Right. Like at minimum,
Right.
like there's so many layers to that, especially the economic side. Like at minimum, you'd hope that like whatever the, and I assume these will all be, more shit that goes in your inventory that is like, you turn it on and it says, until you get a drop, increases your chance of dropping X for...
New Rainmakers hot dog.
Right, exactly. It'll be like
Right,
that
yay.
kind of thing.
That's the really awful worst thing about it is my preference would be for them to literally not design a new thing and for them to just do Menagerie again.
New
Because it was so good the first time and it was exactly what I wanted.
Yeah, I think most of the community at least wants to see Menagerie updated such that you can get new stuff from it, because everyone would do that. Or
Right,
you know,
and if they're sunsetting
that formula.
all of the fucking weapons from Menagerie, Menagerie will not only be completely worthless, but also it'll be a big chunk of space that is wasted in a game where Bungie's already said that there's a finite amount of space and they've kind of already hit the cap.
Yeah, this game is bloated as it is.
Oh, and that's the
Like,
point where, like, I would assume that when that stuff is truly rotated out of the pool, that's the point where they either think they do update this activity, or like, or
Or they
becomes,
get rid of
right,
Menagerie.
exactly, or it becomes like part of the stuff on the chopping block.
God damn it!
I don't see them. I really don't see them doing either of those things. I think they'll leave it exactly the way it is.
We'll see. Who can say? But even if they got rid of it, like, personally, I don't think I'd be super bothered by that. Like, if
I'd be
they're never
bummed.
going to update it, I would also
Yeah.
totally be
Well,
fine
right,
with them
if they're never
changing
gonna
it.
update it, but also they should just fucking update it. That is such an easy win.
Not for their pocketbook.
Well, that's another, like, I don't even know if that's necessarily true. I think that's one of those things where that comes down to, it's part of that conversation, and probably more of it is just, like, the people who, like, many of the people on the front lines who make the game want to make new shit. Like, they don't want to, like, slotting in stuff into content that's, like, coming up on, at some point it'll be 3-4 years old or whatever, and I assume that those kind of folks are, butting heads with certain people in management anyway when it comes to just, like, how big of scope they can tackle with any given update or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So if they, like, totally acquiesce and say, all right, we'll just take all the, the modes we have right now and just slot a little new gear into the stuff that we made 3 years ago and call it a day, like, that can't be that fulfilling to design.
The only way I can see that ever happening is if they take an off season or community health season where they just kind of revamp old things but still charge you the $10 entry fee for the season to give them an excuse to actually go back and revitalize all those things and get people interested in them again.
It's like 50% of what Rise of Iron was, because they modernized all the raids.
I could see them doing that at some point,
Strikes.
having revamped raids and activities, but it's not going to just happen as a free update one day. Like, oh yeah, we're doing this thing.
I mean, I would rather that than the Seraph bunkers and the public events.
I think they're done with that model. So.
Yeah. They made that kind of clear before.
We'll get it again next season, but
probably.
That's weird.
Starting with the fall expansion, and everything's gonna change.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we'll see. But anyway, let's go all the way back and, like, kind of wind back around to just people's feelings and thoughts on this, because
I've never had a feeling before.
I have, like, intensely strong sympathy for the things that they're trying to accomplish with sunsetting weapons in general. Like, that's how I feel about it. Like, I was always, when Metacross existed, or when we presumed that it would exist for more than the amount of time that it did, the thing that I always wanted to talk to Richie about in terms of building that thing was that, like, you can't just do the thing that has happened to
slide on forever.
Right, that has happened to all those score games where they've never tried to do, like, blocks or rotation or anything. Like, they just tried to keep adding cards on top of cards in perpetuity. And eventually they all became, like, somewhere on the spectrum of either unplayable or at the very least, like,
worthless.
Not remotely the thing that they were when they started. Like, it was just
thank God that never happened.
Right, there you go. That's looking on the bright side. But that's always been, like, of the things that I dislike about Magic the Gathering, basically that, like, the core engine I just am not in love with. Like that part of that game I don't really care for that much. But the block system and, like, just taking cards out and making more deliberate, more discrete sandboxes that exist for, 6-12 months, like, something like that, and even reintroducing cards and stuff, like, oh, now it's 2022 and Birds of Paradise is back. That's fun. Like, that stuff I don't have any problem with whatsoever, personally. Like, it doesn't bother me even a little bit. But because it is very useful in terms of solving a
Right.
problem that is otherwise you're just going to be on this endless treadmill of powering things up and then slowly powering them back down, and then just like you just keep repeating that cycle.
You can't live life like a shonen manga.
It basically becomes more about
You just goddamn
balancing the
can't.
spreadsheet numbers at that point, and less about balancing a feel, like a holistic sensation over the course of like a 12-month experience in my mind. And I apparently almost everyone who's active on Reddit totally disagrees with me, but
They're all not game designers.
Right. I get where they're coming from for a lot of reasons too. Just on the one hand, this isn't Magic the Gathering; it's a feel-good looter shooter, so balance isn't the most important thing in the world.
Shooter, shooter.
But also PvP.
Right, that's
Also,
the other part of it.
But
oh, and the other part of it is that like I think people are like missing the forest for the trees a little bit, and
A
that
little?
you know, people these days in particular, people are always going back to like, man, Forsaken was so good, it was so awesome, and that's true that it was, and the content in Forsaken was really good. But a little bit of what made it good, like a bit of that high from that expansion being so well received, I think, was just that they did get to hit the reset button on a lot of the loot, and it like the dopamine hit was stronger than it had been in a while because every new drop was a little bit
yeah.
exciting.
Definitely.
And so that's going to be, by default, you're going to get that, you know, at minimum every 12 months or whatever with the way that they're going to roll this out, assuming they stick with it, which I sincerely hope that they do, personally.
The way that they said they're doing it is it's going to rotate season by season, which, on the one hand, means you'll have a lot of basically meta refreshes every 3-4 months, which is neat. But on the other hand, it's incredibly confusing to just have to section off each block of gear. Like,
yeah.
you have to look at, what are we, 12 seasons of gear? The first 8 will just get wiped out, but every season's going to have a different expiration date on it, and going through all your gear, it's like, all right, how long do I need to keep this? What am I going to do with this? It's going to be very confusing just to look at stuff. Is this expired? Is this about to expire?
Check the dates. Check the
Smell
dates.
it. That's right. Does the shotgun smell
What
weird
might-
to you?
Is this
What
story
might
of
get
Holt
even weirder
Hood
is
with mold?
saying like, all right, I've got most of my gear at max level. I can afford to have 1 or 2 pieces that are from old seasons and still hit whatever the level cap is for this content. And then you have to look through and figure out when each of your previous pieces expired, so that you can know
Right.
whether or not it's so long ago that you still can't use it,
right.
or it was sort of recent that it expired, so I can use 1 or 2 pieces of it.
That goes doubly so because the old stuff will still have armament mods, which is the thing they're trying to get rid of.
So it'll be kind of weird. But
This-
I think we're all in agreement that some form of rotation is definitely a good.
I wish they would have gone for like just a year block, like a block format, basically, where you take out 4 seasons at a time.
Yeah, I would have been totally fine with that, too.
I was thinking 6 months myself.
2 seasons worth.
But so someone raised an interesting point about this. The fact that there's sunsetting armor 2 really raises a question about exactly how Gambit Prime is going to work, because of that armor is going to be sunset, and it never came back. There's no updated version of the Reckoner Gambit Prime armor.
When I saw that, my immediate reaction was, they don't care, and neither do I.
So that's unironically that's pretty much what my perspective is. I was already on the camp that they were probably going to scrap one of the 2 modes, or maybe both of them, and then introduce a third mode that has the elements that they ended up deciding that they liked. But now I would bet money that that is the case, because
Yeah.
there's no way that they keep Prime after this.
I bet that gets resolved by the fall expansion on its own.
Right?
Yeah, and-
There's no way that they keep Prime.
Yeah,
Prime
and
isn't dead.
I
They
wouldn't
pretty
be
much
at
said
all
as much.
surprised if there was a new source of Prime gear, which there will be new sources. Well, not new sources, but new sets of Crucible and Iron Banner.
Right.
gear
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
all
and
that stuff will
yeah, exactly.
refresh.
They said that about the vendor stuff or whatever, that stuff will refresh every 12 months. Like, basically, the big content drop will see the old set of shit that Shaxx gives you rotate out, and then you'll have a new set of shit that Shaxx will give you or whatever.
It's gonna have to give is I don't think they're gonna be able to slot that new gear into Reckoning again.
Exactly.
Oh,
if
not
Prime still
Reckoning.
exists, you'll need to get the gear somewhere else.
No reason not to at this point.
Not to what?
10. Gambit Prime gear drop in Gambit.
Right,
Yeah.
whatever the
Being
equivalent is,
stupid
whether
it
it's
doesn't.
armor mods or a new set of armor that works similarly or whatever. The thing
I
would be.
bet that they scrap Gambit.
And
armor.
again, that's entirely off the table. I bet they don't scrap the concept of Gambit armor, but the
They have
physical
done
incarnation-
absolutely nothing to try and balance it, which means that it's not even on their radar for like fiddling around with it to get the numbers right.
I mean,
They
that might all be coming all at once. They have new sets of armor, and the armor will have a balance run on it.
Yeah, and the other thing there is like, I can easily see when you're putting this stuff all in like a whiteboard, like when you're trying to make a chart of like what needs to get done in the next 6 months. And
They
like
just
you have,
forget.
well, and you have when you have one quadrant that's Gambit. And
Gambit? Question mark?
And you have like little bubbles that are like feedback from community, and it's like, oh, some people like regular Gambit and some people like Prime, and I would guess like it's not totally overwhelming one way or another. It's probably like 60-40, 70-30-ish at the most, I would assume. That's just pulling
How does
numbers
that?
completely out of my butt.
Gross.
Um,
Put 'em
and
back.
so they probably have one pitch that's like, all right, here are people within the studio who like Gambit a lot and who would like to evolve the Gambit Prime concept, and that'll take X number of hours. And then they have another pitch, which is just like, make it more like regular Gambit, just dumb it down a ton and like get rid of all the superfluous crap, and whichever one of those the schedule allows for, like that would be one of the first things you can say, like, all right, well, if we're gonna have to cut something from this expansion, that's not like a core part of the narrative or like a big part of PvP or whatever. This is the thing that, like, if you guys can manage to carve out the time and we can get this to work, you can have like an evolved version of what the Prime version of Gambit was. That's fine. And if you can't, then we'll do this other one that is much simpler and much less time intensive, and then just kind of call it a day for probably the next 12 months from that point or whatever.
Yeah.
That's definitely, I think, why we haven't seen any Gambit updates like at all. Season of the Drifter was really poorly received,
Right.
and Gambit has never been really a popular game mode other than the season it launched, sort of for its novelty, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So putting any design resources into it just doesn't make sense, and that's also why I think the only time we may see an update for it, or the most likely time certainly, is the yearly expansion. Like
the
just
big
because
one.
they'll commit more resources to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that is all, again, like total conjecture and speculation or whatever, but in my mind, I would think, like, I strongly suspect there are people at Bungie who care a lot about the Gambit game mode, but it is also one of the first easiest things that you could just, like, cut dev time for and just put on the back burner. Like,
Right.
it is certainly the thing of, like, the core things you can do in Destiny. It's the thing people will miss the least if it is, less than stellar or gets updated less frequently. So, yeah.
But what if they had kept up on Gambit?
What
you know,
if they
had
cared?
new maps, new modes?
Well, sure, and then
you know,
that's a
how
self-fulfilling
people
prophecy
react
too,
differently
right?
to it.
Yeah, because if they had, like, if it had changed every season, like in at least the
think
same
that's
way that Crucible changes, where they did a little bit of rebalancing every 3 months or whatever, then I'm sure it would be more popular now just because of that for certain. But,
Right. They did that a little bit, a year and a half ago, but they just sort of stopped.
One of the funny things about how Gambit interacts with the whole armor rotation is you'll still be able to wear stuff with armament mods, so it's not going to solve that problem that Gambit has with people having infinite ammo because of taking armaments or whichever other armaments.
Although the invader stuff is power level dependent, so that'll be like that'll be your trade-off. Like if you want to invade and have armament mods, you'll be much weaker than average at some point, and then
You'll play on PC and just hot swap.
I guess that's
Yeah,
true.
right.
Fair enough.
Even on console, having one piece of armor
Yeah,
that's
it's not a big deal.
100 light levels less is like the average that you'll see is 10 light level reduction, which is not enough, and that's if the light level cap goes up by 100, which who knows.
I hope not. I get why they didn't do this, but I would have liked to have seen them just take all the old gear and wipe it out.
Yeah, and I would have been fine with that too, personally. Like, it wouldn't necessarily have bugged me.
Have all this old gear in your
The
bank.
Cabal invade the tower and
Let the Almighty crash!
Uh-huh.
Imagine the salt if
I know,
D2 had
they
a
would have
full
never-
armor reset.
never gotten away with it.
Right, and that's why they didn't do it. Is for as angry as people are now, they would have been exponentially angrier if it was like a true wipe, like if it was if they were actually cleaning the slate completely. Which, yeah,
And
would
in some ways, I like this better anyway. Like, this is kind of like expanded or an unlimited format. Like, you can still go into quick play and use Revoker or whatever.
Yeah,
but
I definitely
not
don't
gonna
mind
be
it. I
using
think it is a great compromise, like the idea of soft sunsetting the stuff as opposed to like hard banning it or whatever.
For people with short memories or who didn't play Destiny 1, they did do this pretty much exact thing in Destiny 1.
Right.
Woo.
And a lot of the community does not remember that.
Sure, and the other thing is it's even more necessary in this product than it would have been in that one, because when they were making that game, they were still under the Activision contract with the Activision timescale, so they knew, they knew whenever they were implementing that, when that game would be sunset in favor of a new executable, like a different box product or whatever. With this game, it is obviously like kind of up in the air when or if the game called Destiny 2 will ever cease to be in favor of a Destiny 3. Like, it's definitely not going to happen soon, and it might not ever happen.
Right.
So it's.
I think in D1, a lot of the reason that they had to introduce that was also because they extended D1's lifespan a year longer than it was initially supposed to be, because they were supposed to release Destiny 2 2 years after Destiny 1 was released, and then, it didn't take long into Destiny 1 for them to realize they weren't going to be able to do that. So
right.
They had to change a bunch of design philosophies kind of on the fly.
10-year plan.
Something like that.
Not over that yet.
But
my
yeah.
10-year plan is for my 10-year plan to become a 20-year plan.
Hell yeah!
Money keeps coming in.
Yeah, I'm all for it. I'm excited for this kind of stuff to come around, and I just hope
I am tentatively for it.
Yeah.
The thing that I was telling Phil earlier is that I think we're all on the same page that design-wise, it is preferable to power creep, and they have to do something to address that core problem that the loot has. So, I think we can all recognize that it's something of a necessity to do, but they've shown a wild incompetence so far in some of their weapon balance and weapon design, such that fusion rifles are the perfect example, and it's no surprise that our entire group half fucking mains Erentil here, but they have consistently failed to give any incentive whatsoever to running any fusion rifle except Erentil, Ilatha, and now Bastion. And what happens when they sunset Erentil and Ilatha, but Astral and now Fellwinter's Lie will not only be not sunset because they're newer, but they're better than fucking Mindbenders was. They've just forced the meta in the direction of shotguns and away from fusion rifles, and if they don't replace Erentil and Ilatha with a comparable max impact that has scopes and also firmly planted, there's just nowhere for it to go unless they do the thing that we all know they won't do, which is redesign how fusion rifles work so that there's a fucking reason to run the other archetypes.
I think that's a problem you can see across different weapon archetypes, too.
Right. Scout rifles have no fucking purpose.
And they're weapons that are, the only weapon holding together a weapon class, and if you remove them and don't replace them with something comparable immediately, then just nobody will use that weapon class.
Randy's. Once Randy's is gone, Scout rifles will be Jade Rabbit and
Randy's is the only rapid-fire static Scout rifle. So,
and it also has rapid hit,
Yeah, it also happens to be an amazing roll, but...
And it kind of doesn't matter what more shotguns they make from here on out. Astral and now Fellwinters are just going to be the shotgun forever, because they're not going to want to make better shotguns than those.
They're already basically perfect, which is weird. And like Wade pointed out, neither of them is going to be sunset for a long time.
Right. Only you rotated the entire block at a time.
Yeah, we'll see. I am tentatively optimistic of just I'm hoping that they'll take advantage of the new design space that they're gifting themselves, and that they will go out on a limb, especially during some seasons for some weapon types. Like scout rifles are an excellent example of just things that have been across the board are kind of super underperforming usage wise, and just really put a couple of them out there that really rip the knob off for a little bit, with the knowledge that eventually they'll just be into the wind after some amount of time, and then there'll be a new season that has a new flavor or whatever.
delicious flavor.
My biggest concern, I think, along the same lines of like things that Bungie has done poorly for like kind of quite a while, that like I don't quite know where the source of it is from, like why things are this way, but I do hope that they get better. Is that I just hope they rebalance some of the economy of upgrading stuff with the context of them sunsetting armor pieces, because I have no problem, grinding for fresh armor every once in a while, but I just don't know why it is why they have been so punitive to like anybody who's not the hardest of the hardcore in terms of getting the resources to max that stuff out. Like in my ideal world, you would be able to like over the course of a season without even really trying, like making like a half-assed effort to play the game a couple hours a week, you would at minimum get the resources to be able to masterwork a full set of armor every season.
Right. For sure. And the other thing is sunsetting armor. Let's assume that they could have sunset mods separately. Sunsetting armor is not a balanced thing. It is purely a way to get people to play more.
Right? Yeah, you're right. That is because it is just the numbers. And once you get the a 67 or whatever, like that's the thing, and it's got a good balance. That's the thing. So yeah, you're not wrong that half of this is to put player hours on the board.
Right, and which like you pointed out, I would probably be more okay with if it wasn't two-sided, because grinding for new armor every season and grinding for Ascendant shards to replace the ones that you just disappeared sucks. Like, if they don't improve that economy, it's going to be a major problem for a lot of players.
Yeah, and the hint there is that, like, of the things that they mentioned about changing trials, they called that out as a thing that they'll give you more of, which we'll have to see how generous that is. Is it going to be like one enhancement core every card? Because that's not going to quite cut it.
Bungie has been totally tone deaf about things like that in the past, so we'll see.
But if that's a big if, because like I said, this is the thing I think they've maybe done the worst on from like definitely from like Shadowkeep on, is just like setting up an economy that you can like upgrade and maximize a bunch of your gear just as a result of kind of like idly playing the game, like not as a result of targeted like farming. Like I'm gonna get to the max level for the season, and then I'm gonna go do 40 Nightfalls or whatever and pick up all this shit. Yeah, like that stuff should just come as a course of like people who don't mainline this, like don't inject this game directly into their nutsack, should be able to masterwork their gear. Like
no.
They've already sort of started to design some things in this way, or at least said that they're going to, but they really should just have a couple of freebies every week where, like, per character or per account or whatever, if you do a quest, you'll just get an Ascendant shard.
Yeah, totally.
Like, well, you can't farm it, but players who don't play a ton can get them.
Like, give it to one of the Banshee things. Like, right now, he doesn't give you basically anything.
Like,
yeah,
whatever.
Give him a third weekly, or just change up one of the other ones. Like, oh, do this and get, like, maybe an Enhancement Prism or an Ascendant Shard or something. Like,
what's maybe worse right now than the time requirement for getting these things is that also all of them right now, the only way to get Ascendant Shards are trials and Nightfall ordeals, high level Nightfall ordeals. And both of those are things you can't do if you don't have an active clan.
Right. Yeah, they're literally things you can't do as a solo player. Like you either would have to LFG and get some people, or you have to have friends that are playing, which I'm sure that's part of the pitch from the people who want to be punitive with these resources.
Yeah.
Because they're like, all right, that'll just encourage people to bug the shit out of the people they know to come play this game instead of Fortnite or whatever the fuck else they got going on.
That's not how this works.
I obviously don't have the analytics for this kind of thing, but my hunch is that if you look at the numbers, when they look at the numbers, they see that a huge majority of the player base does not interact with like upgrading material or mods or anything like that, or especially masterworking stuff. So for that reason, I see why they would both A, be punitive with how they give them out, and B, not care so much about making sure that experience is approachable for new players, because at the end of the day, Masterwork gear not that important for most of the content.
Sure.
And at the same time, that's sort of self-fulfilling too. Like, it's a lot of players aren't interacting with it right now just because it's so hard to do.
Yeah, I don't do as much of it. Like,
right, me neither.
There are so many cool,
you can upgrade any piece to 8 or 9 for almost free, and I bet that they would see it, and not many people even do that.
Right, but there are so many cool, this season in particular, I think they've actually done a really good job of making a lot of cool, unique armor perks. And I haven't fucked with the vast majority of them just because it's too much of a fucking hassle to make sure you have a thing in every slot and upgrade it all the way. Like, the time investment to get set up to experiments with that stuff from a gameplay perspective is just too arduous. And that's the kind of thing where
is temporary.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing where it makes me suspect that that there are the people who make the game and make up the things that Guns and Armor do. And they try to they do the best that they can to build like interesting perks and an engaging sandbox or whatever for whatever period, and then the people who decide how that stuff gets doled out basically like invalidate a lot of that work by just making the grind part the part where it's just like they're just trying to squeeze hours played per week to get them 10% higher than they were last quarter or whatever.
It'll be interesting to see what they do with like the seasonal mod sets going forward, because I bet if you look at the last 2 or 3 seasons, nobody for the most part is doing like those mod builds based on Warmind cells.
Right, and that's in my mind that's the
upgrade, because it's because actually doing it is so convoluted.
Yeah, the unfortunate part to me is that in my mind that's the second most thing that is crowding out cool, unique design in this game. The first one is power creep and just like the environment being too crowded with a glute of just like infinite shit. And the second one is that they've done such a poor job managing the economics of what it takes to get or optimize gear that it just is too much of a hassle to put in the time to experiment with all the stuff they've built currently, just because they have in many ways done the exact opposite with the practicality of what it takes to acquire that shit. So that's the part where I'm hoping that there is a change of philosophy to some extent in that direction too.
I kind of hope they never again have a mod that requires another mod to interact with. Just have each one be its own unique, discrete thing, and that's it. You can run one of them, you can run 5 of them. It doesn't matter.
Sure.
Yeah, it's an interesting concept, but it's also just so much work.
I appreciate some of the designs behind them, and some of them are really interesting and strong. It's just dealing with them sucks.
Yeah.
And that's even disregarding the process of collecting them, which some of them haven't even done.
Them. Yeah.
Even for some of the more basic ones, like Powerful Friends, that require you to have an extra ARC mod on, I think my preferred design philosophy would be just if they increased the cost of Powerful Friends and just left it at that.
It seems like an accident to me.
Well, right. It was bad design to begin with, but I'd rather it be, instead of 4 cost where you have to have an ARC mod somewhere else on your equipment, have it be 6 cost and then just fucking call it a day.
Yeah.
I bet they don't do that again in any form.
Well, right.
But they break their form on what mods are, basically. You have your first slot for stat mods, and you have your 4th slot for seasonal mods, and they're not supposed to be crossing over.
Yeah, I actually thought it was a really cool idea. I just think it was poorly implemented.
I thought it was fun, but it felt unintended.
Oh, that wasn't the only thing that had stat modifiers. They put them on 4 or 5 of those mods. Just that's the only good one.
How many of them were positive, though? I know a lot of them.
That one.
Yeah, I don't think any of the other ones are positive from like for those stats where it's like discipline and stuff like that. But there were other positive ones that did other things like there's that one for fusion rifles that makes your your draw time better or whatever if you have a different arc mod.
Yeah, I recall there being a -10 strength and a -10 discipline.
Right, yeah, they had negative ones.
remember.
They had ones that negatively affected those stats, but I don't think there was any other that affected them positively.
I don't think there were any of those.
Well, they might have had positive, but there was a negative definitely on all of the ones.
I don't even think there were.
I don't think there were any other positives.
The only positive. When they introduced it, I thought, okay, every season now we're going to get a few of these, and it's going to shake up the meta. And then we just didn't get one this season. So Powerful Friends is still just the only one.
Disproportionately makes
in time to stop more of them from happening.
Right.
I think they should have made more.
That would have been interesting, but
right.
I think 1 was the worst thing they could do because
exactly they needed to either go whole hog or not at all.
They're course correcting now by rotating that out so that there'll be none.
But it's not rotating out for a year.
Sort of, even. At that point, it becomes, you can put it on your class item or whatever still. Incur a light penalty.
Yeah, it's going to be real interesting, for sure. Brian kind of reiterated the same thing I said in the Twitch chat, where, like...
Anyone who doesn't know what the hell's going on.
But, yeah, I just hope that, like, the last thing I'll say about the economics is that they've been wielding sticks for far too long, and I hope that they start dangling some carrots instead in terms of like from raw material standpoint of just like acquiring that kind of shit. It just seems like such a shame.
I would be flabbergasted if they didn't have either prisms or shards in some way incorporated into the basic Crucible playlist.
Yeah, you'd hope.
Oh, that's like that's the thing I want the most, but it's also like I think the last place I see them putting it.
I mean, people have been asking for stuff like that forever. I want to get something real for like a Valor reset instead of 5 enhancement
Some blues,
cores or
2 purples.
Bungie knows the people that play in those playlists are gonna play no matter what's in there.
Right. I kind of meant to get to that earlier. Like the people that this whole economy thing applies to are the people like us that are going to play a zillion hours anyway. At the end of the day, it doesn't usually impact us.
But like I said, it is a way bigger problem than that, because those are the kind of people where you'll get people who wouldn't engage with those systems to like some percentage of them might engage with them if they just like get enough of that stuff to where they can mess with it without really thinking about it. Whereas like if things are so rare like that, you get locked into you'll either kind of ignore it because you don't see them frequently enough that like you just kind of put it out of your mind, and then by your next play session you've already forgot that shit exists.
Imagine if
other consumables.
Or you do get them and you're like, oh, this seems important. I'm gonna hoard this away for when I get something that I really need, and it's a self-fulfilling cycle of it's like it's like every time
Mega
I play a
elixirs.
game, like, you know, a traditional RPG or whatever, and I have like 57 max potions or whatever by the end of it. Well, I might need this. I better hold on to it in case I need it 24 hours from now, and then when I'm at the final boss, I just have a stack of 200 of them.
Imagine if they just took Shax's weekly and also had it give you 5 enhancement prisms.
Yeah.
I think
That would bring people in.
And again, if you did that and kept the like I have no problem with them maximizing, like capping out how many you can stack or whatever in your inventory. So if they just were more generous and they still capped them, it's not like you're gonna have 600 of them or whatever a year from now. It'll just mean that you're actually interfacing with the game in the way that they intend you to. You'll either update gear on the regular or you won't, and that stuff will just fizzle into the ether. It's very frustrating.
We'll see. Yeah, I bet the enhancement materials will get easier to get, but by how much?
Yeah, right. It
might
is the big
be
question.
very little.
Yeah, and we won't know until it's out, until they've changed some shit. So
Right.
we'll see.
Not yet.
One of the biggest like philosophical problems I have with the way one of the things they said they're going to do in the TWAB today is that they're going to reissue gear at some point. Some of it. Not allow you to still use the old gear. So they'll do things like say, all right, we're going to sunset this weapon, and now it's unsunset, but you can't use the old one. That just becomes a very blatant, like, it wasn't about balance, obviously, because now you can use it again.
Sure.
But now you have to grind a new one.
They're not going to bring back Recluse or Revoker when that's gone, but they might bring back, Uriel's Gift again, or average type weapons, or even weapons people like but weren't breaking the meta.
Yeah, but doing that and not letting people use the old version of it that they had is really shitty, is my point.
I think from a technical standpoint, that's probably hard to pull off, because then each one of these is sectioned off per season. So
right, like I bet they're basically limited by the like what I consider the set symbol for these things. Like and each like expansion has its own little icon. That's probably how they're gating. Like it's tied to that is how they're gating whether that stuff like what timeline it rotates out on or whatever.
I'm not gonna pretend to have any idea how difficult it would be to change that, but it's still shitty to take things away from people and then put them back into the game and say you have to grind it again.
I mean, we've been doing that ever since season Forsaken.
And that's the kind of thing where
and year 1 weapons that became year 2 and every.
But Forsaken added to them. Forsaken gave them an extra perk slot at least.
And so if like weapons function totally differently and then they reintroduce old weapons, that's not the same thing as saying we're going to ban your weapon and then reintroduce it in exactly the same way, but you can't use the old one.
Sure, and that's another remains to be seen thing too, because it's interesting that like when I made my my original Magic the Gathering analogy, I was kind of thinking of with this in mind, although you would be correct that in Magic you can use an old version of like you want to use your OG Llanowar Elves from 6th edition or whatever, you totally
have to go out and buy a new one.
But I do hope that like they I do hope that they take those opportunities to do that stuff with slight tweaks. I think that would be ideal.
It's rules or change the stats or something.
It's a lot more understandable if they rebalance something, but if it just comes back and it's exactly the same, then that's just a horrible thing to do.
Yeah,
Right.
and
I want to keep my fucking 20,000 kill Aaron Till, and if they bring back Aaron Till reissued later with no changes, I'm just gonna be furious.
and that's the kind of thing where if they did want to if they did re-release something exactly as it was originally intended, and people complained about it a ton, and there was a technical reason for not doing it, I bet they could come up with a really shitty workaround that's like if they put out Not Forgotten again, and it was the exact same gun. Like, maybe they make a quest that drops once that's like, all right, this quest gives you Not Forgotten, and to complete it, you have to dust a Not Forgotten.
Right, exactly.
So, like, they could maybe meet people halfway there. Like, that seems like the kind of thing where if that scenario played out, like, they would meet people halfway, like, 3 months after the fact by doing something like that, if there's a technical reason for why they can't accomplish it the other way. But yeah, my hope would be that they will reintroduce stuff, and that when they do it, there will be at least light balancing. Like, maybe they'll change the perk pool a little bit. Maybe they'll just change some of the stats a little. I would love to see them take Not Forgotten out of the game and then put it back in with, like, Mag Howl back to the way it originally was, and just see how that works for a while. But yeah,
Sort of what they did with Redrix.
Yeah, totally. Like, I would like to see them do that with that kind of stuff. And that's the kind of thing where, like, yeah, I'm definitely not, like, I'm not opposed to it for the reason I think some other people are opposed to it, of just like, oh, this thing was already out and then you took it away and now you're putting it back. Like, you just took it off the board for 6 months. I kind of like that. I think that's like a plus.
I don't mind a rotation,
but I totally get
thing,
the thing. Like, I totally get what you're saying of, like, I understand that people would be miffed if it is literally an identical thing. You just can't pull the other one you have back out and reuse it some more.
What
like,
if
I understand why.
spend more resources to update the old one? What if there is, like...
Well, who knows? Whatever. We'll see. But as far as stuff like phasing in and out of the meta, that's not a thing I necessarily have a problem with in any way.
Yeah, no.
So we'll see. We'll see how it happens in practice. Like I said, I would totally bet that they'll, like... I can see that timeline now of, like, the first time they re-release a thing and it is exactly the same as the original. I would almost bet money on it that there will be, like, people will complain, and then they'll find a way to give it back to people who had it originally that doesn't entail doing the thing you have to do to get it in a contemporary fashion.
I think that might work for stuff like Not Forgotten, but for just Garden brand weapons that you get from an engram or whatever, that's a little harder to pull off.
Sure.
They would have to literally add whatever it is.
Yeah, and right, for randomly rolled stuff, like if it's like, if they say, you know, Badlander, or I don't know why I thought of that gun in particular, but, like, that gun's been out and now it's back. Like, all they need to do is change the perk pool on it, and then people will just want to re-roll them anyway, of whatever the thing is.
I would almost hope to do that just on principle, just so that they don't have to face that.
Yeah, and that's my hope. Where, again, that comes down to, like, I really hope they take strong advantage of, like, the opportunities that they're setting themselves up to have with the system. Is, like, I want to see them add 1 or 2 new weapon perks every season, ideally.
Right.
And those guns will have that stuff for that amount of time. Like, that's what the game will have dropped for that period, and then they'll be gone, and there'll be new shit next season or whatever.
But also, how much dev time would that take to take a Badlander and add 2 new perks to it every season, or whenever it happens?
Underdog celery, go.
Adding celerity to Badlander.
Yeah. It's
because you asked for it.
Brother Vance's
Remember when they
Badlander.
started taking Crucible maps out of rotation and then put them back in, but they were exactly the same, even though they said that that's not what they were going to do?
Spawn mechanics on Dead Cliffs, allegedly.
Allegedly, right, in an
More A
imperceptible way.
spawns. More A spawns.
I think you do spawn, like, a little bit closer to A, like a couple of feet.
And none of the other maps appear to have been changed in any meaningful way either. But, you know, again, if whatever changes they made to it are barely perceptible.
Yeah, it's a little unfortunate that they
That's
probably don't have the resources to overhaul any of the maps that really need it.
Not anymore,
It's a shame,
anyway.
but they did do it that one time with
Retribution, wasn't it?
Markup. Yeah, Retribution.
Retribution, yeah.
Donut.
The donut.
They reshaped that fucking map.
No,
Yeah,
excuse me.
my expectations of Bungie at this point aren't super high.
Yeah, and again, that also just comes back around to like they kind of shouldn't be like until they prove otherwise, which is why, like I said,
on your side.
it really loops us all the way back around to like I don't think this was the greatest time to roll out something like this, like to reiterate it to people. It would be way better if they could have pushed it back a few weeks or even a month or two. But
I get why they want this thing ready to go by the fall expansion.
yeah, for sure,
that.
and it would be to not have it be a major part of the fall expansion would be a huge disaster. Like that's the point where people expect the game to change a significant way, and to not introduce this significant change then would be like a disaster. Like it would be a total mess.
It would be very Bungie.
So yeah, I'm kind of hoping that they'll just take their lumps for right now, and the next season will probably be underwhelming in a somewhat similar way as this one. Like fingers crossed it'll be a little bit better, but like I doubt it'll be
More
like a sea
public
change.
events.
Like I don't think it's going to be drastically better. It could be, but I'm not expecting that.
No.
But I really am hoping that the fall expansion will be at least somewhat like Shadowkeep quality or higher.
I don't want to get my hopes up for something like that, but man,
I would be shocked if it was lower than Shadowkeep quality.
I mean, because Shadowkeep was still being worked on or in tandem with the other two Activision branches doing other stuff, and now those branches don't exist anymore. Bungie's literally doing everything. So that's why a lot of these problems have popped up, is they just literally don't have the resources to do the things we want them to do, and they probably want to do.
There are fewer people
At the same time,
power-wise.
Shadowkeep was also being worked on while they were, making it free to play and setting up PC stuff, and they were
Right, and
that's not the only thing they were doing.
Rolling out that Stadia version.
Woo!
Yeah.
We shit on that, but it turns out, with all this whole working from home thing.
Yeah, right. I
I
had said that before. I forget
really
when,
well.
but yeah, it was just kind of funny that paid dividends from a
Right.
dev standpoint. Because it certainly hasn't from a pocketbook standpoint, other than whatever Google paid them to build it.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Like I said, I am tentatively optimistic of the potential for all these changes, but more than ever, I wouldn't blame anybody for being just like, in general, still negative on the game, because everything recently has been kind of negative. Like they are in put up or shut up territory
Right,
for the
that's
next
what
couple
I think.
months. Like
the fall expansion is a make or break point for them. It's either they've been putting off, hardcore investment in these seasons building up to the fall
Right.
expansion, or they're literally just incapable of making good content anymore.
Right.
Find
Yeah.
out.
Right.
Ostensibly, a lot of the reason that the seasons have been so bland up for the last year has been, they've been hard at work on Destiny 3, but now we know that Destiny 3 is not coming for X number of years. So like,
well, and that's the kind of thing where like that's still in my mind. There's no way you'll be able to evaluate that content until you play it. Like there's not necessarily a huge difference between Destiny 3 or just a really good Destiny 2 expansion. Like one of them is much easier to quantify from from the way the video games have traditionally been made, or like, oh, this is a big new upgrade. But there's no reason that a version of Destiny 2 isn't as large an upgrade. You just have to play it and find out. That's like saying that, Source Engine games today are the same as Team Fortress 2 or whatever. Like, technically, there's some part of that under the hood that is probably the same as that game that was made 15 years ago. But they are vastly different products at this point, because they've been iterated on so thoroughly for over such a long amount of time that, I don't think that precludes... I don't think the fact that we're not getting Destiny 3 soon precludes the game from having awesome content, but it definitely doesn't guarantee that it will either.
Yeah.
So,
It makes it that much more important that this expansion is good, because
I think that's more what my point was, right?
Sure.
If they've bungled this expansion, it means what the fuck have they been doing with their time? Like,
yeah, that's totally fair.
I think they're about out of strikes on this.
right? Out of gimmies, out of freebies.
there's no free will.
You're not wrong.
No free lunch.
But yeah, I absolutely wouldn't. Like I said, I will hold it. I am bummed out that people seem to be actively agitated by even the thought of rotating stuff, but I would not hold it against anyone to just say, like, look, man, I'm just not going to play this game anymore until I think it's good again. Like, you should totally do that.
Right.
If you really hate the way that the game is right now, go play something else. That's totally fine.
If we didn't like Trials, man, we might not be playing Destiny.
Yeah, exactly. Like, if they hadn't rolled out Trials this season, like, my God.
Yeah. This
Season
year.
of Worthy was real rough.
Season of
And it-
Worthy, and it's had some cool like story stuff in it.
Yeah.
You're right. It was rough, but it was like in every way other than Trials, wildly better than the season.
Yeah, we'll
the
see.
Bastion community thing. We had Saint 14 solo questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
And that's what's been disappointing about this
That
season,
was
and
a
I'm guessing
real
we're not going to get, like, since there's only 3 weeks left, and seemingly the last thing realistically on the calendar is this thing for Fellwinter's Lie, I'm guessing there's not going to be even anything this season that was like those little snippets of Saint 14, like those little story missions, which, you know, they weren't enormous, but they were above
They were
average
very
for the
cool.
like seasonal content stuff. Like, they were fun and worth doing.
Depending on how this season ends and how that connects to the next season, that they might have backloaded the story stuff as the connection between the two.
Yeah,
We'll see.
so we'll see. Again, we'll find out, but
I also have a very funny, like, little note on their timing of the pyramid ships on their way in.
If it's all to be believed, shit's about to hit the fan.
Well, if they don't bring up whatever is going to happen this coming season, I just don't understand what they're doing with their timing, because they've really explicitly laid out that in 1 week the pyramid ships travel like 10% closer to where we are, to the point that they're right at, you know, right in front of Titan right now, and if another season goes by where we get 12 weeks where they don't fucking do anything, like, that's just weird.
Yeah.
But that's so intentional that they can't not be doing that.
So
And yet,
And how?
they did revive Aldrin fucking 4 seasons ago or
Who?
whatever, and then just did nothing with him.
Who's
Nothing
Aldrin?
with him yet.
No. He was in a dawning ship lore card
No, he's been in a couple of lore cards, but they haven't done anything with
and
him.
something
Like,
for
But there isn't
Crimson
a wall
Days.
deep underground with like a picture of Aldrin moving closer.
I want to be in that bunker. Put me in that bunker.
boy,
Tell
I
me where
want
he
that.
is, Rasputin.
uh-huh.
I know you know.
Rain, can you replace the triangle ships with little Aldrin faces?
make that the thumbnail.
Yeah, that sounds pretty
Sure.
He's coming.
good. Oh my
Wait,
gosh.
he'll be here.
Uh-huh.
He said he was coming. Guys, no, it's okay.
Indeed. Well, I don't
They've
think...
done that with a couple of things now too.
Oh.
Like they haven't really talked at all about Drifter's fucking experiment thing. They haven't really done
Rain
anything
has
with
always been a game of loose ends.
They haven't done anything with the 9. They haven't done anything with like
Arasov.
Who's
right Marasov. They did a whole bunch of build up and then just it all kind of
Well,
fizzled.
they brought
into
her
one
brother
thing
back
together.
even.
Very-
Like,
Some of those things, some of those things explain themselves in the lore cards, and some of them were never meant to be much bigger than they were, like the 9. Like, once you understood their story,
I don't know. That
No.
lady was pretty big.
that
He
was
looks
Mara.
like-
Physically huge.
That was Mara.
Miroslav.
Mario!
Mara built you a cake in the fucking Ascendant realm.
In another cast, in another ascended realm.
Your sister's in another Ascendant realm.
That's your sister.
Cox.
That's a good
Ascended
line.
realm.
Man, Forsaken is so good.
It is really kind of wild how much better Forsaken was than everything that has preceded it.
Yeah.
Many of the things that preceded it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I guess the last thing I'll
say that was the best expansion so far of either Destiny.
yeah.
I did really like Taken King a whole lot.
That's a fair opinion.
Yeah, I think I'll kind of lightly close us out here with my last thought on Forsaken, which is a thing that they've mentioned separately too, and which is why, like, for me personally, I'm just hoping that they can achieve like modern high levels as opposed to historical high levels of how good this game has been.
Oh,
And
yeah.
if they can exceed those expectations, that would be great. But they have specifically called out before, and I don't remember if it was like other TWABs or like some of the Luke blog posts or whatever about that expansion specifically being
Flash in the
unsustainable from a manpower standpoint.
Right.
Of like that was the hardest that they ever crunched to get a thing out of that caliber, and that the goal is to not do that anymore, so that people don't just like quit working in game dev when they're 40 just because they can't do it anymore.
Crunch is
I would
fucking
rather
going
have
on.
one Forsaken every year than one Shadowkeep and 3 whatever the last 3 seasons
Season
are.
of whatever this season
Sure,
is.
right, and that's another that's like the calculus that goes into that is so wild because, like you said, there's that
keep that
it's a
$10
free to play
a month
thing.
on
They
that.
have to have so many butts in the seats metaphorically
Right.
for every month or whatever for that part of the game to make sense. So, like, there's so many balancing acts to be had there from like a biz dev standpoint that I'm not going to claim to. Even if I had the numbers, I'm not going to claim that I could see through the matrix and figure out how to make those two things work together. But I hope that they can do it.
And even in like Destiny 1, people complained a relentless amount about the droughts between content.
Right.
Yeah, and I don't think the answer.
It's not something we experience.
Yeah,
anymore.
we've had that conversation before too, but I don't think the answer is to introduce literally nothing into the game for 9 months and then like have,
Right.
have more content. Like that's just crazy for the opposite direction. But yeah, we'll see. But yeah, I personally don't want anybody to kill themselves or get out of an industry because they are asked to put in like 80-hour weeks or whatever for 6 months to ship a thing. So if Destiny is never as good as the best it's ever been, I can live with that, but it's got to be better than it is now.
Yeah.
Like
Hard same.
those two things can both be true.
And I think a lot of what they need to do to, fall in between those things is less designing a lot of good content and more just managing the content they have correctly.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. My banners can say how many weekly heroic event clears I've done this week.
Oh, thank God. How many void kills have you gotten this week, Kyle?
That's worth something.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah. I think with that we'll call it a show. But thank you guys so much for hanging out and talking about stuff.
Thanks for listening to us, bitch.
Yeah, I hope that Destiny gets
That's
better.
every night in Destiny, please.
And I hope that everybody is
Still
still.
love Destiny.
I hope everybody making the game is staying sane for the most part. I've never thought more about. There was this amazing. I should go look it up and find it again. But there was this like kind of incredible GC talk years ago that is more prescient than it's ever been about. It was by the guys who made Mario 3D Land on the DS or 3DS, whichever. It was the 3DS, right?
Oh,
That was basically like a post-mortem of what it was like to build a fun, lighthearted entertainment product in the wake of that tsunami and the fucking nuclear meltdown and shit.
I think
like,
I've seen
like
that,
what it was like to
that
to
talk.
try to achieve a product like that in the face of the world being a total nightmare shit show, and that's kind of the way it is for everyone
right now.
right now.
Probably.
So on top of all the other things that are difficult about making video games, add one more to the pile. So yeah, safety to I wish safety and
Good health.
good health to everyone who plays Destiny and everyone who makes Destiny and every other thing in the world. And
I don't know, Dustin.
Be a new Paper Mario game in 2 months.
I know.
Yeah, but is it going to be a real Paper Mario game?
It's unclear. We'll see. I hope so.
Wouldn't that be great?
but yeah, that's stay safe out there. Try to stay sane to the best of your abilities, and
Or don't, whatever gets you off.
that's right. I mean, if-
Wade, Valentine's Day was months ago.
don't breathe anyone else. But if there's some thing inside you that says you just gotta like lick a lamppost to feel alive again, like just make sure you don't go near anybody else for the next month after you do it.
Nah,
I
you
won't be
still
going
shouldn't do that.
anywhere, so. Merp.
Anyway, yeah, stay.
Wear your masks, idiots.
Wear your masks. Dude, don't go outside most of the time. Be reasonable. Stay
You don't
safe.
have to boat right now.
Be reasonable, and we'll see you later, internet.
You're far away from people as everybody.
Unless you boat with family, which a bunch of people do.
gonna
Extended family.
Everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, fellow
I'm going
boatsmen.
for a boat ride.
Good.
I want a boat.
I believe it was a boating accident.
I don't know, maybe a boat.
Anyway, we did it. We did the thing.
I'm very upset that my Thunder Crashing of Zol did not work. I'm
Yeah, it doesn't work. Sorry.
I'm so
It was
sad.
funny.
It was
You,
so
you got real close. You got like 6 feet away from him, and then you fizzled out.
Yeah.
If
You can
he's
thundercrash him in his body when he's on the map.
right, or if he's lunging his face out at someone and you're well timed, you can hit him.
No. He was just sitting there.
Oh man.
Being
I've got a
dick.
dumb thing that I'm about to do with JJ here for maybe the night.
Okay.
We loaded up Castlevania Aria of Sorrow ROMs with randomizers
Yeah!
that randomizes all
That
the
sounds
fucking
pretty
drops
good.
and the souls, and
Sounds
Alright.
awesome.
we're gonna race each other.
Cool.
Are you gonna have the same seed?
Yes.
Okay.
Nice. All right, I'm way into
wonderful.
that. That's pretty good. Well,
You should record or like stream that or something.
You should
Sure,
post
I'll
the
stream it. I've got my Twitch set up.
All right. Well, then we'll probably get off
Watching
here.
it.
We'll wait till Lorraine finishes
Yeah,
his
I'm
strike,
I'm right at the end of Garden World.
and then we're
No,
gonna get off
he's
here.
he's doing something for right now, and I'm gonna maybe start baking a cinnamon bread, but I'll let you know
Okay.
when
Yeah, if you do that, share a link. I'll check that out.
Yeah. I'd even retweet that link. Oh, I was waiting.
Lorraine, when did you switch to your Titan? You were using your Warlock, and I got so wrapped up in the podcast conversation that I didn't even notice when
Whenever
you
I
transferred.
finished the 4 strikes that I needed to
Okay.
do.
I was just
It seems like you're doing a lot of strikes over there.
I needed some to not have to pay attention to,
Oh,
and I'm
perfect.
doing bright dust bounties on these other characters for the first time, like in a few weeks.
Been collecting ether doctors ever since we started.
Nice.
I'm really looking forward to them changing the minor parts of the Bright Dust economy in that way, so that you can
Maybe.
maximize your Bright Dust
Oh,
input
sure.
on by playing a single character.
We'll see how the math on that checks out, because right now you can get, I don't want to do the math, but
It's 200
18
twice.
bounties worth.
Because it's like Gambit, Crucible,
Well,
Strike,
right,
Strikes.
yeah.
3,600 between the weeklies,
Mhm.
if you do all. So we'll see what the new ones provide relative to that and their time investment. I can definitely see it's like, oh, here's 1,500 dust. You should be thrilled.
Oh, sure, as opposed to the theoretical max.
See that?
It still wouldn't bother me. I bet it'll go down a little, but it would be, it would certainly be better if it didn't, just because, like, every little bit of goodwill helps at this point.
Yeah.
But if it goes down a
Already
little
a
and
low
the
number.
time investment is much lower, like, that's an okay-ish
Right.
rounds. Like, if it
I
takes...
mostly don't want to spend 3 different characters worth of weeklies
Right.
to get all the bright dust.
Yeah,
Shit.
if you can get all the bright dust in
Locking-
2 hours,
locking
but it's, like,
strikes
less
on
bright
individuals.
dust, like, I can live with that.
The weekly, or the repeatable dailies should get more dust anyway.
Instead of
Yeah,
10.
I agree. 5 apiece is bullshit.
It's
I
10.
was gonna say, I was pretty sure it was 10.
Whatever.
It's so insulting.
How many of those do you have to do to buy the boxing emote?
I'll be honest, I can't.
320.
Brian also didn't notice when you switched characters, which is very funny, because...
It is very funny.
Anyway.
Savathun's song was the first one that I did. This is my 3rd strike on my Titan.
I'll make sure it doesn't happen
I did another Will of Thousands, and
Relation shuts down.
Now you've got
I got
toil and
Toil and
trouble.
Trouble.
Good for you.
Shotgun was good once.
Back when it was the only kinetic aggressive
Only
that
kinetic
existed.
I could run. If I do one more arms dealer, I'll be done with weekly bounties on my Titan, the strike ones. I'm just gonna do it.
Are you going to do it right now, or do you want to move? I'll go do it with you if you want to log in a second.
A split second, I was going to be like, yeah, I would do an ordeal, but that was last week.
That's true.
Aw.
Here, let me see.
Yeah.
I was curious, so I looked up what Balagant's the forged Balagant can roll with. It's not great.
Yeah, I never seen it use it. That's not my good.
It can get slide shot in the first, and I guess moving target in the second, or snapshot, and otherwise you don't want it.
Isn't the not yet? No, there's another max impact kinetic shotgun, but I don't remember what it is.
Yeah.
Uh,
I don't know nothing.
I don't know either off the top of my head.
Let's go to
Imperial, not Imperial Decree.
collection.
One of the other
Pure
max-
Decree is what I was gonna say, actually.
It might
That
be-
energy. I thought that was kinetic, and Last Man Standing is energy.
Last Man Standing is definitely energy, but they might both be.
I think Imperial Decree is kinetic.
Last Man Standing is void. Imperial Decree.
I think
Kinetic.
Imperial Decree might be
There
kinetic.
you go.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I'm looking
What
at
is
it.
that? There.
Yeah,
it
I
is.
can-
Probably
yeah, there it
the
is.
second best
That
kinetic.
gets some good rolls, but it doesn't roll draw.
Well, I mean,
That
right
one
now
doesn't.
there are only 2 aggressive models that can roll quick draw, and they're Astral and Mindbenders.
Imperial Decree gets marginally better rolls than Baligan, but not by much. I'll be honest. Like it's slide shot and either snapshot or moving target or maybe swashbuckler are still. Swashbuckler is the only one there that Baligan doesn't get. Both of them just have like feeding frenzy, grave robber, threat detector, pulse monitor, auto loading, trench barrel, like all those fucking garbage.
Problem with shotguns is that most of the perks don't do anything, but a couple of them are amazing.
I will be back in 2 minutes. I'm gonna test its stream thing real quick.
Okay.
Panicking.
I have to keep more Lathas because the one I have is not adequate.
Yeah, that's the first season next year, and when the expansion launches,
Mhm.
Alatha will be viable and Erentil won't be. But
Yeah.
that'll be the only season where that's true. Alatha will be sunset at the end of that season.
Gives me 3 more months to get a new fusion ritual.
I mean, we can wait until the next couple weeks. I don't know if they'll announce anything else like that, but this would be. You want to spend a ton of legendary shards, feed them to Rahul. This might be the season to do
Maybe
it.
getting Alatha.
Yeah.
Or maybe the worst time to do it because this will all be gear that gets rotated out.
Well,
Right.
that's fair too.
His gear will definitely be updated at the start of the next season.
Mhm.
Not next season, the season after that.
Maybe next season.
Probably not, but weird. Or at least it might be updated, but it would probably be very similar. But it'll probably be completely different at the start of the season after that.
Yeah, I would guess that it might be right, either wholly or very significantly different as of
Yeah,
fall.
I'm guessing every vendor will be like that.
Uh-huh.
It's cool. It's something everybody's been asking for a long time.
Yeah.
What
Yeah, there's
price?
some crusty shit in there.
Exile's Curse with Elemental Capacitor and Firmly Planted is viable.
Yeah.
And will be the best option after Alatha gets sunset.
Mhm.
Probably just. I was talking to Wade about it earlier, but I bet Bastion just becomes the thing.
Yeah,
that
right.
We'll all gravitate to.
Bastion is like one of my favorite weapons, period. So
Right.
I already am very high on Bastion at this point.
I'm
so I
honestly
would
kind of
certainly-
glad that I
There's gonna
stopped
be-
using fusions a little bit. Like, I'm still fine with it. Like, I like Erentil enough, but
Mhm.
I still probably like just using an energy bow and like Buzzard or Enigma's Draw and/or I used fucking Patron again yesterday for a little bit, and I love that gun. I like mine a lot.
Almost used Patron today.
Between that and like I had Drang on again. Like Patron Drang is a fun loadout for me. I enjoy that a good amount.
Patron's good at its intended range, but terrible everywhere else.
Yeah. All I almost used it on was Widow's Court.
I was using it on Midtown yesterday to pretty good results.
Totally fine on Midtown. I was going to say that Bastion obviously is going to be around forever now.
Right.
Well, unless they nerf it, which there are already a lot of people asking for, but that's something. Also, the Summoner is going to be tier 1 for
Right.
next year, maybe. And
Until auto rifle changes happen.
both of them are at risk of being nerfed, but assuming they aren't, you could run that loadout for the next year.
Right.
Yep.
I would still kind of hope that they'd maybe bring
They do
600 autos back to like the 0.8
Yeah.
TTK range where like things were kind of capped before this season.
They should just give them the same buff they gave to 720s, because the buff they actually gave them was about twice as much as the buff they gave to 720s for some reason. So you could bring them in between where they used to be and where they are now, and I think they'd be fine.
Yeah.
Especially if you maybe nerfed the range a little bit.
Yeah,
It's kind of wild how much range some of them have.
The range and the stability combined make them devastating.
Just waiting.
I like the stability on it, but they shouldn't be competing with pulse rifles at maximum pulse rifle range. That doesn't make any sense. It makes pulse rifles meaningless.
Yeah, there's lots of little things they could do like that. But, yeah, like you said, I'd like them to be in a place to where they are buffed relative to where they were at the start of the season, but maybe a little less good than they are right now.
Whipping out your bygones and getting killed by a summoner at 35 meters sucks.
Being killed by a summoner sucks.
Oh,
End of sentence.
yeah. Galliard has even more range than that. Galliard outranges.
Yeah, it's theoretically
pulse
tops out
rifles.
at like 35-ish or something if you
Right,
go
yeah.
all in on
And
range
that's,
and scopes.
before damage drop off. But pulse rifles have steeper damage drop off than auto rifles do right now, because pulse rifles got nerfed with hand cannons a few seasons ago for some reason.
Oh, right.
So you can't really use your pulse beyond whatever its maximum range is, but you could totally kill people with summoner beyond its maximum range. So with Galliard, if your damage fall off is 35 meters, you could totally kill somebody 40 to 45 meters. It's crazy. But Galliard's also unfarmable.
Oh, is
Yeah, that's true.
Is that the random one?
Right, yeah, that's the one that falls out of the
Forge one.
forge sometimes. It is functionally unfarmable. Like, if you're a lunatic,
did,
I
like-
guess you could just keep doing forges until you get a good one, but...
I did 20 or 30 forges last week for the Guardian games, and I did not get a single Galliard. And in fact, I only got one of the weapons that drops from that entire weapon pool.
Huh.
I'm back.
I got like
Oh,
2 or 3 dead men walking during my forges.
didn't get any of those either. I got the sniper rifle, Show of Force, I think.
Oh.
Yeah, I got one of those too, which was funny.
That was it. That was the one weapon I got.
Neat.
It'd be weird when Revoker is sunset, since right now there's like no equivalent to it, obviously.
Right, kinetic snipers in general. Like, I bet it's just gonna be Eye of Soul is
Yeah, Eye of
the
Soul.
main.
Yeah,
Placement.
probably.
Like,
It's certainly got the
I think it'd
prickle
be
for
worth
it.
Yeah.
I don't have the snapshot model, but I do have the firmly planted opening shot model, which
I have one of those.
it does get headshots like inches away from where you're aiming.
You're gonna need those because you're not getting that ammo back.
Right, and also I'm bad at sniping.
Same.
Before I had a Revoker, Beloved was the thing I used the most. And
There's
it's
a
also
lot
90
of
RPM.
Beloveds in Crucible. If it's not Revoker, it's Beloved.
You'll
almost.
see
they're
more
smart-
after Revoker sunset.
If they're smart, there'll be a lot of weapons in 2 seasons or across the next 2 seasons. to come
But
out.
also,
How does, what's it called? Can't even think of the name of it. That energy sniper that you can change its affinity. The exotic.
Borealis.
Yeah, how does that thing stack up stat-wise? Is it any good?
It's really good.
Okay, there you
that's
go. That thing's not going
it's very
anywhere.
good.
Maybe people will use Borealis.
After Beloved is sunset for sure. Yeah.
It's possible, but the reason I would suspect people wouldn't use Borealis very much is because
Exotic.
then you are limited to not using an exotic kinetic, which means you do not get Suros, which means if you're running an auto rifle, it's either Doctor or get fucked.
Yeah, but people don't like people do use
They might use
autos and
sidearm
snipes,
thing,
but people
like,
are also just as
or-
likely to use like sidearms or
Smuggler's
whatever.
Word or-
Maybe. Like there are enough people
Boomsight.
that have been rolling that specific loadout these days that I feel like there would be people who could totally sacrifice that slot for like. There's all kinds of viable sidearms and kinetic or energy if people were into that.
Haven't paid attention to snipers since Revoker came out. Is there a 90 RPM sniper that's newer than Beloved
Oh,
in the energy slot?
Okay.
I don't
think
know.
so.
Really either, but
I don't think so, but I'm not 100% sure. I also haven't been paying. I'm trying to think what other new snipers there have been in any category since then.
The
Distant
rate
Tauntauns is 140.
sniper's a 140.
What about the
And
moon
then
one?
Sniper is a 140.
That's a kinetic, but yes, it is 90 RPM.
Oh.
Still doing good. Got it.
That guy jumped like 1,000,000 feet in the air.
Rakazan, that's the boss. Dustin.
Oh,
I'm gonna look
what
up
is-
the Moon Sniper later. That might be worth
Do it.
looking into. Oh, yeah, and then there's Eye of Soul. It's a 90.
Oh, now we can push the button. That guy's trying to blessing this guy real hard.
Alright,
Oh,
I
he's
have to
coming.
do 2 more things.
Trophy
Nice.
hunters at 72.
Gross.
Right.
Yeah, I knew that.
It's no longer obtainable.
Right, also not obtainable.
They're bringing some of those weapons back.
Trophy Hunter might be one of
They
them.
said like a fifth of them or something like that. I don't remember. They gave.
Yeah, there
somewhat
was
specific-
they mentioned something in terms of how many, but I
How
forget
stupid
what
would it be to Thunder Crash up there right now?
I'd hold off a second.
Fairly stupid.
Hey, you could try it now. You'll probably make it.
You'll
Now you
probably
definitely
make-
will. Oh,
No,
no, just
I'm
kidding.
bad at Thunder Crashing, Dustin. I hit him, I think.
You hit him a little.
Is the audio
With the
not
aftershocks or whatever. There, he's dead. He's dying.
He's dying. He's dying.
Lion.
Twilight Oath apparently will be available forever. Or no, that's not raid.
So
yeah, that's just
that
part of the
was-
Dreaming City set.
Supremacy though.
Supremacy. Well, it won't be forever. It'll just have a longer sunset
Yeah.
period. Could be 4 or 5 months.
Don't forget about the signal flares.
Forgot about Supremacy though. I've got one of those. I don't like 140s anymore though.
I don't like Supremacy. I don't know what it is.
I liked Supremacy back when I was farming for Revoker
Yeah,
when that was the thing.
Ah, yes, the thing.
Fate of the Fox,
Chomp.
aka Bad Revoker.
Chomp.
And likewise the Forge sniper that's name I don't remember.
The one that you just mentioned, the one that drops randomly, like.
No.
No, the other one, the one that you can actually
Oh, right, Target.
grind.
Target.
Yeah.
That's right, that guy.
Has a noteworthy thing that it can roll kill clip, which lets you body shot people.
Bull.
Yeah, that thing rolls cool, weird stuff.
Tartar's gaze.
But that'll get sunset
Yeah.
Rip.
at the start of the expansion also. So
Right.
There's the Reckoning sniper rifle, right? I think.
That's a 90 energy.
I think that was it.
I can't even remember what its
Soul
name
Survivor.
is.
Yeah, that. I know that it has some cool PvE perks. I don't know so much for PvP. I think it gets opening shot.
I'm not sure.
What about distant tum-tums?
It's a 140, and it can roll snapshot and opening shot.
I want a
Believe,
trophy hunter to
think.
load.
Maybe,
It's so long.
maybe it was only opening shot, but it's got really, really high native handling because it's a 140. So
Mhm. Did it, Lorraine? You beat
that'll
that guy
be
up.
I did it.
I'll be in the pool for a while.
Scuba C.
Those spare rations are going to be replaced by dire promises.
I fully believe that there will be a lot of weapons that are currently in the game that'll just be brought back instantly. Just the weapon pool,
Mm.
fairly well stocked.
Yeah, I have no problem with that. Like I said, and I really hope that they do introduce like new perks or new perk sets or whatever. Like when they bring stuff back, change it up a little. Work with
It'll
the
be pretty lame if they don't.
like you've given yourself more runway. Take advantage of it.
Do literally
Come on,
anything
guys.
with it.
But on the other hand, deadlines.
Well, there's that too. But there's literally no excuse for not either changing the values a little or just like reshuffling the perk set from the perks that exists.
But
Like-
that's the thing Bungie has always been bad at.
Hi,
That's why
Brian.
so many exotics are bad right
Hi,
now,
Brian.
even though a numbers change would fix it.
Oh,
Exotic armor, to be specific.
Lucifer's Pizza.
say Lorraine,
I
how
didn't
are
realize you guys were in Discord.
That's okay. I think we're about to wrap it
Yeah.
up on here anyway, so we can join you on
I would
PSN.
migrate.
Yeah.
Migrate to PSN.
Mhm.
Ryan, are you about done?
Yeah, I'm good.
All right. Yeah.
Brian,
Oh, go ahead.
Brian, you ever play Aria of Sorrow?
My brain.
Anyway, we're gonna end this stream so we could talk more when we get onto the PSNs.
Wade might stream a thing in a second.
Yeah,
I probably will not be migrating to PSN.
that's
so.
fair.
Uh-huh.
But for everybody else
Doing a
on
funny thing and he'll be streaming it.
this nonsense, we did it. We did a podcast.
Have
I
fun.
did so many strikes. Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna call it a night on the internet.
Woohoo!
So everyone online, we'll see you later. Brian and company will see you guys on PSN in about 5-10 minutes.
Yeah.
For posterity, yes, I did play Aria of Sorrow.
Okay. I'm doing a randomized Aria of Sorrow race against JJ, and I'm going to be streaming it here in like 15 minutes, and I'm going to have his game running literally right next to mine.
Oh, you're gonna
so
have
you
both
can-
of them? Awesome.
Yeah!
Hell
So
yeah.
perfect.
All right, I'm into it.
Yeah.
I'm jazzed. I'm going to get everything ready here.
Yeah.
All right,
Go
sounds
do
good.
that. We'll
Good
end
luck.
over here. Thank y'all for joining us,
Uh-huh.
talking about Destiny and such.
Yeah.
Thank the rest of the world for hanging out with us, and for Colette for sleeping the whole time. She's gonna get up and go onto the couch when we stand up in a second. But until then, we'll see y'all later.
All right. Bye-bye, internet.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, Internet. I love you.
I love the internet.
That's not true. That's impossible.